In the winter of 1942, as the icy winds of Manhattan sliced through the windows of the New Yorker hotel like shards of glass, Nikola Tesla held in his trembling hands a device that should never have existed. The inventor who had illuminated the world with his alternating current, who had defied the laws of physics with his coils and towers, now found himself facing his most dangerous and sacred creation, a machine capable of piercing the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead. The recording that has reached us, hidden for decades in the secret archives of the FBI and only recently discovered by a researcher who prefers to remain anonymous, reveals Tesla's final words on a territory that official science has never dared to explore. It was a confession made to a young journalist, his name lost to history, someone Tesla considered worthy of carrying his deepest secrets beyond the grave. Tesla sat in his favorite armchair, strategically positioned to capture the subtle frequencies that, he claimed, constantly permeated apartment 3327. His eyes, still bright despite his 85 years, were fixed on a point in space where only he seemed to see something. The hands that once shaped the future of electricity now trembled not from age, but from an almost feverish excitement. "All my life," Tesla began in a measured voice, as if weighing each word before releasing it to the world, "I've been called a visionary, a genius, even a madman. But I never told the truth about what truly drove my discoveries. I never revealed the source of my inspiration, the channel through which I received the information that transformed this world." The inventor then recounted how it all began in his youth, when the first visions manifested not as hallucinations, but as precise communications from dimensions that traditional science insisted on denying. For years, Tesla believed these experiences were a product of his hypersensitive mind, a result of his ability to visualize complex inventions before even building them. But over time, he realized he was receiving instructions from intelligences that had once inhabited the physical plane. Scientists and inventors who had passed from this life but continued their work in higher spheres of existence. "Leonardo da Vinci was the first to visit me," Tesla confessed, his voice carrying a mixture of reverence and melancholy. "It happened in 1884, shortly after my arrival in the United States. I was working in Edison's workshop, struggling against the limitations of his direct current, when I felt a familiar presence beside me. It wasn't a visual apparition, understand, but something far more subtle and powerful. It was as if my mind was suddenly expanded, connected to a vast consciousness that had mastered both art and science centuries before." Tesla described how Da Vinci had transmitted to him, through crystal-clear mental impressions, the principles that later resulted in the development of the induction motor. The equations appeared in his mind not as products of his own reasoning, but gifts from a superior intelligence that had transcended the barriers of physical death. It was as if the great Renaissance master was completing through Tesla the projects that the brevity of human life had not allowed him to finish. "But Leonardo was only the first," the inventor continued, his fingers tapping nervously on the armrest of his chair. "Soon others came. Michael Faraday brought me insights into the magnetic properties of matter that never appeared in his published works. Benjamin Franklin shared with me secrets about the electrical nature of the atmosphere that he had discovered in experiments never documented. Each of them brought pieces of a cosmic puzzle that only now, at the end of my earthly journey, I begin to understand in its entirety. Tesla recounted how these communications didn't follow a predictable pattern. Sometimes they arrived during his solitary walks through Central Park, when the quietude of nature created the environment conducive to these interdimensional connections. Other times they manifested in his laboratory at the height of some complex experiment, as if the high frequencies generated by his equipment served a bridge between planes of existence. Material science, Tesla explained with increasing intensity in his voice, is only the outer shell of a much vaster and more complex reality. What we call death is simply a change in vibrational state, a transfer of consciousness to higher frequencies. Those who have passed away haven't disappeared. They've simply moved to operate on energetic octaves that our earthly instruments cannot yet detect. It was then that Tesla revealed the most closely guarded secret of his career. During the last 15 years of his life, he had dedicated much of his time to the development of a device capable of establishing conscious and controlled communication with these higher dimensions. Using principles of harmonic resonance and amplification of subtle frequencies, he had created a machine that functioned as an interdimensional telephone, allowing direct conversations with those who had already passed on. The prototype was almost complete in 1915, Tesla revealed, when external events forced me to interrupt the project. The war had begun, and I knew that such technology, in the wrong hands, could be used for destructive purposes. Imagine the chaos that would result if dictators and tyrants could directly consult the military masters of the past, or if information about future weapons were transmitted across dimensions. Tesla described how he hid the plans and dismantled the prototype, distributing the parts to different locations to ensure that no one could reconstruct the machine without his knowledge. But the work continued in secret, refined through decades of solitary experimentation in his New Yorker hotel apartment, where he recreated a miniaturized version of the device. The last transmission of Nikola Tesla. Intel, hotel room, night. A grainy, black and white recording plays. The image is slightly blurry, showing a gaunt but determined Nikola Tesla, his eyes gleaming with an almost feverish intensity. In recent weeks, the inventor confesses, his voice a near whisper, the communications have intensified dramatically. It's no longer just the great scientists of the past who visit. My own mother, gone these many years, has been appearing with increasing frequency. She's preparing me for the transition, explaining the process of releasing consciousness from the limitations of the physical body. Tesla recounts how his mother, Mary, described a plane of existence where time doesn't follow earthly linearity, where past, present, and future coexist in an eternal tapestry of possibilities. In this dimension, she explained, souls continue to evolve, but free from the constraints of dense matter. It was a place of pure creation, where thought manifested instantly as reality, where humanity's highest dreams and ideals found complete expression. She showed me, Tesla continues, that my earthly work was just the prologue to a far greater work I'll continue on the other side. The inventions I brought to this world were preparations for even more advanced technologies I'll help develop in the higher spheres. Devices that will eventually be passed down to future generations of earthly inventors, just as I received mine from the masters who came before me. At this point in the recording, Tesla pauses, as if receiving some unseen communication. When he resumes, his voice carries a new urgency, a pressing need to share truths long held back. It's as if he knows time is running out, that this is his last chance to leave behind revelations that could transform humanity's understanding of existence. For those seeking to understand the deepest mysteries of existence, who yearn for revelations about the secrets held by humanity's greatest minds, subscribe to our channel to continue receiving reports like this, discoveries that challenge everything we thought we knew about life, death, and the unseen planes that permeate our reality. What most amazes me, Tesla reveals, is discovering that the entire structure of the cosmos operates on principles of harmonic resonance similar to those I applied in my earthly inventions. The entire universe is a symphony of interconnected frequencies, where each soul is a unique note contributing to a cosmic music of indescribable beauty. Death isn't the end of the melody, it's simply a modulation to a higher octave. Tesla then describes a transcendental experience that occurred just 3 nights before this recording. Around 3 a.m., when the hotel's silence was broken only by the distant hum of city machines, he found himself suddenly transported to what he described as a vast cosmic library, a place where all knowledge, discovered and undiscovered, existed as pure energy. I was walking through endless corridors, he recounts, his voice choked with emotion, where each book wasn't made of paper but of living light. Each volume contained not just information, but the complete experiences of those who had sought and found these truths. I could touch the knowledge of Archimedes, feel the discoveries of Galileo, experience the mystical revelations of Pythagoras as if they were my own memories. In this dimensional library, Tesla found an entire section dedicated to the discoveries he himself would make after his transition. He saw designs for machines that used the very fabric of space-time as an energy source, devices capable of curing diseases by restoring the harmonic frequencies of subtle bodies, technologies that would allow humanity to travel not only through physical space, but between different dimensions of reality. But the most impressive thing, Tesla continues, was finding a section dedicated to the Akashic records of humanity, where I could perceive how each individual life contributes to a much larger evolutionary plan. I saw how my own existence, with all its discoveries and frustrations, was an essential piece in a cosmic mosaic destined to raise the entire human species to a new level of consciousness. Tesla then revealed that he had understood the true purpose of his earthly inventions. They weren't just devices to make human life easier, but tools of spiritual transformation disguised as technology. The alternating current that illuminated the world symbolized the alternation between states of waking consciousness and transcendence. His experiments with wireless transmission foreshadowed the telepathic communication that humanity would naturally develop in its future evolution. The Tesla coils, with their spectacular discharges, were physical representations of the awakening of the sacred Kundalini fire that sleeps at the base of the human spine. Each spark that leapt from my coils, Tesla explains with growing excitement, was a metaphor for the spiritual energy that can be awakened in a human being through the correct understanding of universal principles. I wasn't just manipulating electricity, I was encoding the secrets of conscious transformation into physical form. The inventor then describes how his latest experiments had confirmed something he had long suspected. Human consciousness isn't produced by the brain, but received by it, just as a radio receives waves that exist independently of the receiving apparatus. The brain functions as a sophisticated tuner of conscious frequencies, capable of accessing different levels of perception depending on its state of tuning. During my youth in Serbia, Tesla recalls, I already perceived that I could tune my mind to frequencies that allowed me to see events at a distance, predict future events, and receive inspiration from sources that transcended my personal knowledge. I believed then that these were rare abilities, special gifts granted to few. Now I understand that they are natural capabilities of all human consciousness, simply dormant due to the materialistic education that dominates our civilization. Tesla revealed his final experiments had demonstrated the possibility of building technological devices capable of amplifying these natural capabilities of consciousness, creating a bridge between human intuition and the higher frequencies where the souls of those who have passed reside.
This wasn't spiritualism in the traditional sense, but a transcendental science utilizing the universe's own physical laws to establish conscious communication between different planes of existence. The final prototype, Tesla confided, is hidden behind the false wall of my closet. It's about the size of a cigar box, but its outward simplicity hides an inner complexity that took decades to perfect. It uses quartz crystals tuned to specific frequencies, copper coils wound according to proportions based on the Fibonacci sequence, and an amplification system operating in higher harmonics of the electromagnetic spectrum. Tesla explained the device functioned on a principle he called conscious resonance. Just as a tuning fork can vibrate another tuning fork of the same frequency at a distance, human consciousness, when properly attuned, can resonate with other consciousness, regardless of whether they are embodied or disembodied. The first time the device fully functioned, Tesla reported, his voice trembling with emotion, I established direct communication with my father, who died almost 40 years ago. It wasn't vague or symbolic communication, but a clear and objective conversation where he relayed information I could later verify as true.
He told me about family documents hidden in our old house in Serbia, documents whose location only he knew, and they were found exactly where he said they would be. But the implications of this technology went far beyond the possibility of conversing with deceased relatives. Tesla realized he was dealing with a fundamental mechanism of creation, a force connecting all forms of consciousness in a cosmic network of energy and information. Through the device, he had accessed what he called the universal library, a field of information where all knowledge, discovered or yet to be discovered, exists in potential. I saw the future of humanity, Tesla revealed, his voice taking on a prophetic tone. I saw an era where every human being will have direct access to this universal library, where we will no longer need schools or universities as we know them today, because all knowledge will be available through conscious attunement. I saw entire cities powered by free energy drawn directly from the quantum field of space. I saw machines that cure diseases by restoring the energetic frequencies of the subtle bodies. I saw humanity transcending the limitations of dense matter and developing capabilities we now consider supernatural. Tesla described how this future wasn't thousands of years away, but would be achieved gradually over the next centuries through the work of inventors and scientists who, like him, would receive direct inspiration from the higher spheres of existence. Each generation would bring a piece of the cosmic puzzle until all truth was revealed and humanity assumed its rightful place as a conscious co-creator of universal evolution. My greatest regret, Tesla confessed, is not having had the courage to publicize these discoveries during my active life. The fear of ridicule, concern for my scientific reputation, the certainty that I would be considered insane by the academic community, all this prevented me from sharing what truly mattered. I dedicated decades to inventions that, while useful, were only pale reflections of the true possibilities I had glimpsed. Tesla then revealed that his final days had been filled with increasingly clear visions of the transition process awaiting him. His mother and other deceased relatives visited him with increasing frequency, preparing him for the moment of final release. They had explained that physical death is like awakening from a very vivid dream, where consciousness finally frees itself from the limitations imposed by dense matter and can express its true infinite nature. They showed me, Tesla said serenely, that on the other side I will continue inventing, but on a much larger scale. I will work with teams of evolved consciousnesses in developing technologies that will be gradually transmitted to earthly inventors through the same process by which I received my own inspirations. It's a collaborative work between dimensions, where those who have passed continue contributing to the progress of those who still remain embodied. Tesla described how he had understood that his own life had been carefully planned before his birth, as part of a larger project designed to introduce to Earth knowledge that would prepare humanity for a new phase of its evolution.
Each of his inventions had been a step on an evolutionary ladder that would eventually lead the human species to a new level of consciousness and capability. The towers I built for wireless transmission, Tesla explained, were primitive prototypes of structures that, in the future, will allow humanity to communicate directly with other civilizations scattered throughout the cosmos. The electric motors I created are precursors of machines that will use consciousness itself as a source of energy. Every experiment with high frequencies was a preparation for the day when human beings will learn to raise their own vibrational frequencies and transcend the limitations of physical matter. At this point in the recording, Tesla paused for a prolonged time, as if receiving an urgent communication from some invisible source. When he resumed speaking, his voice had taken on a different quality, as if it were no longer just him speaking, but a collective consciousness expressing itself through him. "The time is approaching," he said with an absolute certainty that was both reassuring and solemn. "In the next few hours, I will make the final transition to the higher spheres of existence. But it won't be a departure in the traditional sense of the word. It will be a graduation, a promotion to a cosmic laboratory where I can finally work without the limitations imposed by dense matter." Tesla then revealed his final instructions for those who would come after him. The interdimensional communication device was to remain hidden until someone with the purity of heart and spiritual evolution necessary to use it without selfish purposes arose. His plans for free energy were to be gradually released as humanity demonstrated sufficient maturity to use it constructively. And his discoveries about the multidimensional nature of reality were to be shared through channels that would not arouse the resistance of established institutions. "Those who come after me," prophesied, "will find creative ways to disseminate these truths, not through academic papers or scientific conferences, but through stories, films, art, and other means that directly touch the human heart. Truth has its own intelligence and always finds a way to manifest itself when the time is right." Tesla then described a final vision he had received the previous night. He saw himself in a distant future, working in a higher dimension alongside other great inventors and scientists of human history, developing technologies that would be gradually introduced to Earth through dreams, inspirations, and accidental discoveries by future researchers. "I saw Leonardo da Vinci designing flying machines that would make today's airplanes seem like children's toys. I saw Einstein developing equations that would reveal how to bend space-time to allow instantaneous travel between distant stars. I saw Marie Curie discovering higher dimensional radioactive elements that would cure all diseases known to humanity. And I saw myself creating devices that would allow human consciousness to travel freely between dimensions, exploring the infinite levels of reality that make up the cosmos." Tesla explained that this was the true nature of death, not an end, but an expansion. Consciousness, released from the limitations of the physical body, could finally express its infinite nature and work on scales that were impossible during earthly incarnation. Death is a promotion, a graduation to higher levels of creativity and service. "So do not be afraid when my time comes," Tesla said with a serenity that shined through the recording. "I will be more alive than ever, more creative than I ever was, more capable of contributing to the good of humanity. And for those who have developed the necessary sensitivity, I will continue to be available for guidance and inspiration, just as the masters who preceded me were always available to me." Tesla concluded his final confession by revealing that he had prepared specific signs through which those attuned to higher frequencies could recognize his presence after the transition. These signs would not be spectacular phenomena or dramatic manifestations, but subtle synchronicities, sudden inspirations, and moments of insight that would arrive exactly when they were most needed. "Look for me," Tesla said with an audible smile in his voice, "in moments of scientific discovery, in inspirations that come during dreams, in solutions that appear when you least expect them. Look for me in the beauty of a lightning bolt that cuts across the sky, in the elegance of a mathematical equation, in the perfect harmony of an electrical symphony. I will be there, along with all the other pioneers of human consciousness, continuing the work of humanity's spiritual elevation. Tesla's last words on the recording were a message of hope and encouragement for future generations of truth seekers. He spoke of the inevitability of humanity's conscious awakening, of how the truths he had discovered would become common knowledge in the decades and centuries to come, and of the role that each incarnate soul plays in the great universal evolutionary plan. "Always remember," were his final words, "that you are much more than you appear to be. You are eternal consciousnesses, temporarily focused in physical bodies, multi-dimensional beings exploring the mysteries of creation through earthly experience. Do not let the apparent limitations of this dimension make you forget your true divine nature. Each of you carries within you the same creative potential that has driven all the great discoveries of human history. Trust this potential, develop it, and use it to continue the work of transformation that all of us, on the other side, continue to support with all our love and wisdom." The recording ends there, with the soft sound of footsteps fading away and a door closing gently. 3 days later, Nikola Tesla was found dead in his apartment at the Hotel New Yorker, apparently a victim of a heart attack. But those who know the contents of this recording know that it was not a death in the traditional sense of the word. It was a graduation, a conscious transition to a cosmic laboratory where the great inventor continues his work of enlightening humanity through channels that transcend the barriers between the worlds of the living and the dead. The interdimensional communication device mentioned by Tesla was never officially found, but rumors persist that it still exists, hidden somewhere, awaiting the right moment and the right person to be rediscovered. Until then, his revelations continue to echo through the dimensions, reminding us that reality is far vaster and more mysterious than our materialistic science dares to admit, and that those we love and admire never truly leave us, but simply expand to higher spheres of existence where they continue to watch over our evolution and progress toward the stars.